Struggling single dad helped a woman escape a fussy date, not knowing she was a billionaire falling for him. Picture this: you're a single dad working 2 jobs, splitting your last $20 between gas and your kids' school lunch money. Then you see some guy getting aggressive with a woman at your local coffee shop, and without thinking, you step in. She thanks you quietly, pays for your coffee, and disappears. Normal Tuesday, right? Wrong. Because that woman you just helped, she's about to walk into the boardroom of the biggest company in the city and write a check that will make your head spin. And she can't stop thinking about the man who helped her without wanting anything in return.
Hey, story lover. Welcome to the Narrative Hub, Reddit Stories. Believe me, this adventure gets wild, but it's only epic with you. Seriously, you make this possible. Want more stories? Greater adventure? Smash subscribe right now. Smash like. Comment below. Let's go.
Welcome to part 2 of the story. Enjoy. More importantly, he was home by 6 p.m. every night. No more warehouse shifts. No more falling asleep during Emma's bedtime stories. For the first time since Jennifer died, he felt like he had space to breathe. Sarah integrated into their lives gradually, carefully. She joined them for dinner twice a week, sometimes at Michael's house, where she learned to appreciate the chaos of cooking in a kitchen smaller than her walk-in closet, and sometimes at her place, where Emma had claimed a corner of the living room for her dollhouse and various art projects. "She's gotten very comfortable here," Michael observed one evening, watching Emma rearrange tiny furniture while Sarah helped with homework at the kitchen island. "I hope that's okay," Sarah said, looking up from Emma's math worksheet. "I like having her things here. It makes the place feel more like home. Like somewhere people actually live." Emma looked up from her dollhouse. "Sarah, when are you going to sleep over at our house?" Both adults froze. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Michael asked carefully. "Well, sometimes we sleep here when it gets late, but Sarah never sleeps at our house. Don't you want to see my room?" Sarah and Michael exchanged a look over Emma's head. They'd been carefully maintaining boundaries. Separate bedrooms when Emma stayed overnight at Sarah's. No overnight visits to Michael's smaller house. Keeping things appropriate for a 4-year-old observer. "Maybe sometime soon," Sarah said diplomatically. "Your daddy and I are still figuring things out." "What things?" "Grown-up things," Michael said, the universal parent cop-out. Emma accepted this with 4-year-old logic and went back to her dollhouse, but the question lingered in the air between them. Later, after Emma was asleep, they sat on Sarah's back patio looking out over her perfectly manicured garden. "She's getting attached," Michael said. "Is that bad?" "It could be, if this doesn't work out." Sarah turned to face him. "Do you think it won't work out?" Michael was quiet for a moment. "I think we're from completely different worlds, and I think eventually that's going to matter." "What if it doesn't have to?" "Sarah, you're worth more than the GDP of some countries. I was on food stamps 6 weeks ago. And now you're not. Because of you. Don't you see the problem with that? What happens if this ends badly? Do I lose the job too? Do we have to start over again?" Sarah's jaw tightened. "Do you think I'm that vindictive?" "I don't know what to think. I've never dated someone who could buy my entire life as a rounding error." They sat in silence for a while, the weight of unspoken complications hanging between them. "Michael," Sarah said finally, "I need to tell you something about why this matters so much to me." "Okay." "I've been rich for most of my adult life, really rich, and in that time, I've had exactly 3 serious relationships." "What happened to them?" The first one lasted 6 months. He was sweet and genuine until he found out who I was. And then suddenly every conversation became about business deals and investment opportunities. And the second? 2 years. I thought he was different because he had his own money. Not as much as me, but enough that he didn't seem interested in mine. Turns out he was embezzling from his own company and planning to disappear with whatever he could get from me. Michael winced. And the third? 6 months ago. A very nice man, successful in his own right, no apparent interest in my money. Sarah's voice grew bitter. Right up until I found out he was planning to propose to me on live television as part of a publicity stunt for his tech startup. Geez, Sarah. So you see why I'm suspicious of everyone's motives. And you see why meeting you, someone who helped me without knowing anything about my bank account, felt like finding water in the desert. Michael reached over and took her hand. I'm not those guys. I know. That's what scares me. What do you mean? I mean that for the first time in my life, I'm in a relationship where I have more to lose than money. I could lose you and Emma, and that terrifies me more than any business deal ever has. Michael squeezed her hand. You're not going to lose us over money differences. What if I lose you over them, though? What if you decide you can't handle being with someone whose lunch money could pay off your mortgage? Is that what you think? I think you're a proud man who's worked hard for everything he has. And I think dating a billionaire challenges that pride in ways that might eventually become unbearable. Michael was quiet for a long time, thinking. She wasn't wrong. There were moments when the disparity between their resources made him deeply uncomfortable. When she casually mentioned a business trip to Singapore, or when Emma mentioned that Sarah's car had seats that heated themselves, or when he realized that Sarah's casual Friday outfit cost more than he used to make in a month. You're right that it's complicated, he said finally. But Sarah, the thing is, I don't think about your money when I'm with you. What do you think about? I think about how you listen to Emma's stories like they're the most important thing you've ever heard. I think about how you've never once made me feel stupid or inadequate, even when I'm clearly out of my depth. I think about how you cry during kids' movies and how you've started keeping juice boxes in your refrigerator just in case Emma gets thirsty. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Michael! I think about how you make me laugh and how you're learning to cook just so we can have normal family dinners, and how you've never once suggested that your way is better just because it costs more. But what if? What if we stop borrowing trouble from tomorrow and focus on what we have today? Michael interrupted. What if we trust that we're both smart enough and stubborn enough to figure it out as we go? Sarah leaned over and kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. One day at a time? She asked against his lips. One day at a time. The call came at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday in late March. Michael jolted awake, instantly alert the way all parents learn to be. Michael? Sarah. I'm so sorry to wake you, but Emma's sick. Michael was already pulling on clothes. What happened? Where are you? She's here with me. She started running a fever after dinner, and then she was throwing up, and I didn't know what to do. I called her pediatrician's emergency line, but I'm coming over. Have you taken her temperature recently? 15 minutes ago. It was 103.2. Michael's blood ran cold. I'm on my way. If it goes any higher, call 911. He made the drive to Sarah's house in record time, his mind racing through every possible worst-case scenario. Emma had been perfectly fine when he dropped her off at Sarah's that afternoon. They'd planned a sleepover so Michael could attend a late client meeting that would have run past Emma's bedtime. Sarah met him at the door, still in pajamas, her hair disheveled and her eyes red with worry. She's upstairs. She keeps asking for you. Emma was curled up in Sarah's guest bed, looking impossibly small and fragile. Her cheeks were flushed with fever, and she was shivering despite the blankets piled on top of her. "Hey, princess," Michael said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I hear you're not feeling very good." "Daddy." Emma's voice was weak and scratchy. "My tummy hurts." "I know, sweetheart. We're going to take care of you." Michael felt her forehead, burning hot, and checked the thermometer Sarah handed him. 103.8 degrees. "We need to get her to the emergency room," he said, already scooping Emma up in her blankets. The next few hours passed in a blur of waiting rooms, triage nurses, and medical tests. Emma had developed a severe case of gastroenteritis, complicated by dangerous dehydration. She needed 4 fluids and would have to stay in the hospital for at least 24 hours for observation. Michael sat beside her bed in the pediatric ward, holding her small hand and trying not to think about medical bills he couldn't afford. His new job came with health insurance, but it hadn't kicked in yet. Emma's illness was going to cost thousands of dollars he didn't have. Sarah appeared in the doorway around 6 a.m. with coffee and a bag of clothes for Michael. "How is she?" "Better. The 4 is helping, and her fever's down to 101. The doctor says she should be able to go home tomorrow if she keeps improving." Sarah sat down in the chair next to his. "Good. I was so scared, Michael. I've never dealt with a sick child before." "You did everything right. Getting her temperature, calling the doctor, calling me. She's going to be fine." "I should have noticed she wasn't feeling well earlier. At dinner, she barely ate anything, but I thought she was just tired." "Sarah, stop. Kids get sick. It happens fast, and it's not anyone's fault." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching Emma sleep peacefully for the first time in hours. "Michael," Sarah said quietly, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." "Okay. How are you going to pay for this?" Michael's jaw tightened. He'd been hoping she wouldn't ask. "I'll figure it out. Payment plans, maybe. Or I'll pick up some weekend construction work." "What if you didn't have to?" "Sarah, just listen to me for a minute. I know how you feel about accepting help, but this is Emma's health we're talking about. This is her life." "You think I don't know that?" "I think you're so worried about your pride that you're willing to go into debt, rather than let someone who cares about both of you help." Michael stood up abruptly and walked to the window. "It's not about pride." "Then what is it about?" "It's about what happens next. It's about the precedent we set. If you pay Emma's medical bills, what else do you pay for? Her school clothes? Her college tuition? Where does it end? Why does it have to end somewhere?" Michael turned around to face her. "Because I'm her father. It's my job to take care of her." "And you do take care of her. You love her and protect her and make sure she knows she's the most important thing in your world. That's what being a father means." Being a father means providing for your child. It means making sure your child has what she needs. If that means accepting help from someone who loves both of you, then that's what it means. Michael stared at her. "You love us." Sarah's cheeks flushed. Yes, I do. I love Emma like she was my own daughter. And I love you in a way that terrifies me and makes me happier than I've ever been in my life." "Sarah, I know it's too soon to say it. I know we've only been doing this for a few weeks. But sitting in that house at 3 a.m. with a sick child, All I could think about was how much I needed you there. How much Emma needed her daddy. How much we both need you. Emma stirred in her bed, making small sounds of discomfort. Michael immediately went to her side, checking her temperature and adjusting her blankets. "Daddy?" she whispered. "I'm here, princess." "Is Sarah here too?" Michael glanced back at Sarah, who was trying to wipe away tears without Emma noticing. "She's right here." "Good," Emma said, settling back into sleep. "I like it when we're all together." Michael looked at Sarah over Emma's sleeping form. "We need to talk about this. All of it." "I know. But not here. Not now." "I know. The medical bills can wait until Emma is better and we're all thinking clearly." Michael nodded. "Okay, but Sarah." "Yeah. I love you too, and that scares the hell out of me." Emma recovered quickly, as children do. Within 48 hours, she was back to her normal energetic self, demanding pancakes for breakfast and asking when she could go back to Sarah's house to work on her puzzle. But the crisis had changed something between Michael and Sarah. There was a new intimacy in their conversations, a deeper level of trust. They'd seen each other in an emergency, and they'd both stepped up. The medical bills, when they arrived, were as devastating as Michael had feared. Even with payment plans, he was looking at years of debt. He'd been staring at the numbers for an hour when Sarah knocked on his door. "Emma's at preschool," she said, letting herself in with the key he'd recently given her. "We need to talk." "If this is about the hospital bills." "It's not. Well, not directly." Sarah sat down across from him at the kitchen table. "Michael, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you weeks ago." Michael felt a familiar dread settling in his stomach. "What?" "Remember when I said I was in consulting? That I did mostly behind-the-scenes business stuff?" "Yeah." "I lied. Well, I didn't lie exactly, but I didn't tell you the whole truth." Michael waited. "Chun Holdings isn't just an investment firm. It's bigger than that. We own companies, lots of companies, including Thompson and Associates." The words hit Michael like a physical blow. "What?" "David Thompson works for me, has for 3 years. I bought his firm when he was going through a rough patch, kept him on as the public face because he's good at what he does. So when you recommended me for the job, I told my employee to hire you." Michael stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. "This whole time, I've been working for you." "Technically, yes. But Michael, your qualifications are real. Your work is excellent. David's been genuinely impressed." "Because you told him to be impressed." "That's not true. I told him to give you a fair chance. What you did with that chance was all you." Michael turned around to face her, and Sarah flinched at the anger in his expression. "What else, Sarah? What other lies do I need to know about?" "They weren't lies." "What else do you own that affects my life? Emma's preschool? Our apartment building? The grocery store where I shop?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. "The apartment building." Michael closed his eyes. "Of course. I bought it 2 weeks ago. The previous landlord was planning to raise everyone's rent by 40%, and I knew that would hurt you and your neighbors. So you bought an entire apartment building to keep my rent low." "I bought it to keep everyone's rent fair." "Because of me." "Because it was the right thing to do." Michael sat back down, his head in his hands. "Do you understand what you've done? Do you understand how this looks? It looks like I helped people I care about. It looks like you bought me. It looks like I'm some kind of charity case or kept man or pet project. Sarah's voice grew sharp. Is that really what you think? That this is all some elaborate game to me? I don't know what to think anymore. How much of our relationship is real? And how much is you manipulating my life to get the outcome you want? Everything between us is real, Michael. Every conversation, every kiss, every moment with Emma. But it's all built on lies. It's built on me trying to create a life where we could be together without money being a constant source of stress. By taking away my choices, by making me dependent on you whether I knew it or not. I was trying to help. You were trying to control the situation. You were trying to eliminate variables that might interfere with what you wanted. Sarah stood up, her own anger finally showing. And what I wanted was terrible. A relationship with a man who makes me feel like a human being instead of a bank account. A chance to be part of a family? What you wanted was to buy a family. The words hung in the air between them, cruel and final. Sarah's face went white. Is that really what you think I did? Michael looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the genuine hurt in her eyes, but the anger and betrayal were too fresh, too overwhelming. I think you saw something you wanted and you bought it just like you buy everything else. The job, the apartment building, Emma's medical bills. I haven't paid Emma's medical bills yet, but you were going to, weren't you? Just like you were going to solve every other problem in my life until I had no choice but to be grateful to you. That's exactly what it is. You want to be needed, so you create situations where I need you. You want to play family, so you buy me a better life and hope I'll be thankful enough to let you be part of it. Sarah was crying now, but Michael was too angry to care. Get out, he said quietly. Michael. Get out. I need to think, and I can't do that with you here justifying and explaining and trying to make this all sound reasonable. What about Emma? She's expecting me to pick her up from school. I'll pick up Emma, like I always did before you came along and decided to fix my life. Sarah gathered her purse and jacket with shaking hands. For what it's worth, I never meant for it to happen this way. But it did happen this way, and now we both have to live with it. After Sarah left, Michael sat in his kitchen surrounded by medical bills and tried to figure out how to untangle his life from hers. The job, the apartment, the dollhouse, the dinners, the sleepovers. How much of Emma's happiness was built on a foundation of Sarah's money? More importantly, how was he going to explain to a 4-year-old that Sarah might not be part of their lives anymore? The next 2 weeks were the longest of Michael's life. Emma asked about Sarah constantly. When was she coming to dinner? Could they go to her house to work on puzzles? Why didn't she call anymore? Michael found himself making excuses. Sarah was busy with work. She was traveling. She would call soon. The lies tasted bitter in his mouth. But what was the alternative? How do you explain adult relationship complications to a 4-year-old who just wants to know when her favorite person is coming back? At work, things were awkward but professional. David Thompson seemed to sense that something had changed, but he didn't pry. Michael threw himself into his projects, working late and taking on extra responsibilities. Whatever else was true, he was determined to prove that he'd earned his position. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening when Emma's preschool teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, asked to speak with him privately. Is everything okay at home? she asked gently. Emma's been asking about Sarah a lot, and she seems confused. Michael's heart clenched. What has she been saying? Just that Sarah used to come to dinner and now she doesn't, and she's wondering if Sarah doesn't like her anymore. She's been drawing pictures of the three of you together, but then she scribbles out Sarah's face. That night, after Emma was finally asleep, Michael sat on his couch staring at the dollhouse in the corner of the living room. Emma had rearranged it obsessively for the past week, creating elaborate scenarios where the family was always looking for someone who had gone missing. His phone rang. Sarah's name on the caller ID made his heart race. Hello? Michael, I need to see you. Please. Sarah. Just for a few minutes. There are things you need to know. Against his better judgment, he agreed. Sarah looked terrible when she arrived. Pale, hollow-eyed, like she hadn't been sleeping. She sat on the edge of his couch, maintaining careful distance. How's Emma? She asked. Confused. Hurt. She doesn't understand why you disappeared. Sarah winced. I want to explain some things to you, and then, if you still want me out of your lives, I'll respect that. I'm listening. Thompson and Associates was going under when I bought it. David was about to lose everything. His business, his house, his employees' jobs. I bought the company to save it, not to control it. But you could have told me. I could have. But honestly, it never occurred to me that it mattered. You were qualified, David needed good people. It seemed like a win-win situation. Michael was quiet, so she continued. The apartment building, I found out about the rent increases by accident. I was having coffee with your neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, downtown, and she mentioned it. 40% rent increases would have forced out half the tenants, including elderly people on fixed incomes. So yes, I bought it. But I bought it before we were serious, when helping you was just a side benefit of helping everyone else. And the medical bills? I haven't touched them. I've wanted to, every single day, but I knew how you'd react. Because you know I have pride. Because I know you're a good father who wants to take care of his daughter himself. But Michael, there's something else you need to understand. What? Sarah took a shaky breath. I've never been in love before. Not real love. Not the kind where someone else's happiness matters more than your own. So when I met you and Emma, I did what I always do when something matters. I tried to fix every potential problem so nothing could go wrong. By manipulating the situation. By using the only tools I know how to use. Money and influence and business connections. I don't know how to just let things happen naturally. Michael studied her face. What are you saying? I'm saying that I handled this all wrong, but my intentions were good. I'm saying that I love you and Emma more than I've ever loved anything, and I was terrified of losing you over something as stupid as money. So you decided to control the money. I decided to eliminate it as a barrier, but I understand now that in doing that, I created a different kind of barrier. They sat in silence for a moment. Sarah, Michael said finally, I need you to understand something too. Okay. I grew up poor, really poor. My parents worked multiple jobs and still struggled to keep food on the table. I learned early that accepting help always came with strings attached, and those strings usually strangled you in the end. I'm not your parents' circumstances. No, but you're something potentially worse. You're someone with so much power and money that you could destroy my entire life without even thinking about it. Sarah looked stricken. I would never. You already did. Do you think I can stay at Thompson and Associates now, knowing you own it? Do you think I can live in that apartment? knowing you're my landlord? Do you think I can make any independent decisions about my career or my housing or Emma's future without wondering if you're pulling strings behind the scenes? Michael, you wanted to eliminate money as a barrier, but you made it the only thing we can talk about. You wanted to take care of us, but you took away my ability to take care of myself. Sarah was crying again, quiet tears that she didn't bother to wipe away. So what do we do now? I don't know. I honestly don't know. What if I sold the apartment building? To who? Someone who'll raise everyone's rent anyway. What if I gave Thompson and Associates back to David? Can you do that without destroying the company you saved? Sarah was quiet. It's complicated. Everything about your life is complicated, Sarah. Everything about your money is complicated. And I don't know how to have a simple, honest relationship with someone when every aspect of our lives together is tangled up in your business empire. What about Emma? She loves me, Michael, and I love her. That was the knife twist he'd been dreading. I know. Are you going to keep me away from her? Michael closed his eyes. I don't want to. Michael closed his eyes. I don't want to, but I also don't know how to explain to a 4-year-old that her daddy and the woman she considers a second mother can't figure out how to be in the same room without fighting about money. We could try therapy. We could try a lot of things. But Sarah, at the end of the day, you're still going to be a billionaire, and I'm still going to be a single dad who was on food stamps 2 months ago. That gap doesn't just disappear because we want it to. Sarah stood up slowly. So this is it? We're done. Michael's heart felt like it was breaking into pieces. I don't know. I need time to think. I need to figure out what's best for Emma. And what's best for you? Michael looked at her. Really looked at her. Even exhausted and crying. She was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. More than that, she was kind and funny, and she made him feel like the best version of himself. Emma adored her. In another life, without the money complications, she would have been perfect for them. What's best for me is probably irrelevant, he said quietly. Sarah nodded, understanding. I'll wait, she said. However long you need to figure this out, I'll wait. Sarah. I love you, Michael. Both of you. And I know I messed up, but I also know that what we have is real. So I'll wait. After she left, Michael sat in his living room until dawn, staring at the dollhouse and trying to figure out how to rebuild a life that had been perfect for exactly 3 weeks. The answer came from an unexpected source, Emma herself. 2 days after Sarah's visit, Emma's preschool class had their annual Family Day, where parents and guardians came to see presentations about what families meant to the children. Michael had completely forgotten about it until Ms. Rodriguez called to remind him. Each child had made a poster about their family. Emma's poster showed 3 stick figures holding hands in front of a house. A tall figure labeled Daddy, a smaller figure labeled me, and a medium-sized figure labeled Sarah. Tell us about your family, Emma, Ms. Rodriguez encouraged gently. Emma stood in front of her classroom with the confidence of someone who had never doubted that she was loved. This is my family, she said, pointing to each figure. This is my daddy. He takes care of me and makes the best pancakes and reads me stories even when he's tired. This is me. I like purple and butterflies and my dollhouse. And this is Sarah. Emma paused, looking at the figure she'd drawn with careful attention to detail. Long hair, a big smile, and what appeared to be a briefcase in one hand. Sarah teaches me how to cook, and she has the softest couch for naps, and she listens to all my stories. She goes to work a lot, but she always comes back with hugs. and she makes Daddy smile the way he used to smile in pictures with Mommy. Michael felt his heart stop. Around the classroom, other parents shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew Michael was a single father, and most assumed Emma didn't remember her mother. But Sarah isn't here today, one of Emma's classmates pointed out with the brutal honesty of 4-year-olds. Emma's face fell. Sarah is busy with work, but she's still my family. Even when people aren't with you, they're still your family if you love them. Ms. Rodriguez caught Michael's eye over the children's heads, her expression full of gentle concern. After the presentation, as other families gathered their children and headed home, Michael knelt down to Emma's level. "Princess, can we talk about your poster?" "Did I do it wrong?" Emma asked, suddenly worried. "No, sweetheart, you did it perfectly, but I need to ask you something important." Emma nodded seriously. "You said Sarah is your family, but Sarah and we're having some grown-up problems right now. That's why she hasn't been coming to dinner." "What kind of problems?" "How do you explain financial inequality and power dynamics to a 4-year-old? Sometimes grown-ups disagree about important things, and they need time to figure out how to fix it." "Are you mad at Sarah?" Michael considered lying, then decided Emma deserved honesty. "I was mad at her. She did something that hurt my feelings, even though she didn't mean to." "Did she say sorry?" "She tried to." Emma was quiet for a moment, processing this with 4-year-old logic. "Daddy, when I hurt someone's feelings, even if I didn't mean to, you tell me I have to say sorry and try to fix it." "That's right." "And when someone says sorry to me, you tell me I should listen and maybe give them another chance." Michael's throat tightened. "That's also right." "So why don't you give Sarah another chance?" "It's more complicated than that, Princess." "Is it because she has more money than us?" Michael stared at his daughter. "How do you know about that?" "I'm not dumb, Daddy. Sarah's house is really big, and her car is really nice, and she buys me presents that are really expensive. But she also sits on the floor with me to play dolls, and she lets me help cook even when I make messes. That's not about money." Emma took his hand with the seriousness of a child delivering profound wisdom. "Daddy, do you love Sarah?" "Yes," Michael admitted. "I do." "Does Sarah love you?" "Yes." "Does Sarah love me?" "Very much." "Then why does it matter who has more money? We're still a family." That night, after Emma was asleep, Michael sat in his kitchen with her family poster spread out on the table. In Emma's world, it was simple. People who loved each other were family, regardless of bank accounts or business complications. But Emma was 4. She didn't understand power dynamics or financial dependence or the ways money could corrupt relationships. She didn't know that her medical bills were still unpaid, or that her father was working for her family member's company, or that their rent was artificially low because of Sarah's intervention. Or maybe she did understand, and it simply didn't matter to her. Michael picked up his phone and scrolled to Sarah's number. He'd started to call her a dozen times over the past 2 weeks, always stopping before hitting send. This time, he didn't stop. "Sarah, it's Michael. We need to talk." They met at a neutral location, a small park where Emma liked to play, empty now in the evening light. Sarah arrived first, sitting on a bench looking nervous and hopeful. "Thank you for calling," she said as Michael sat down beside her, careful to maintain some distance. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Okay." If I asked you to liquidate everything that affects my life, sell Thompson and Associates, sell the apartment building, never pay another bill or solve another problem for me, would you do it? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Yes, if that's what it would take to have you and Emma back in my life, yes. Even if it meant some of those businesses failed? Even if it meant people lost their jobs or homes? I would try to find ways to protect people, but yes, if you needed me to step back completely, I would. Michael studied her face. That would be the wrong answer. What? Sarah, if you sold Thompson and Associates back to David without proper financial backing, he'd be bankrupt within 6 months. If you sold the apartment building to some random buyer, they jack up the rent and force out half the tenants. You can't just undo good things because they're inconvenient for our relationship. Sarah looked confused. Then what do you want from me? I want you to understand something. When you bought Thompson and Associates, you didn't just give me a job. You saved David's livelihood and kept a dozen construction workers employed. When you bought the apartment building, you didn't just keep my rent low. You protected Mrs. Patterson and the Johnsons and every other family living there. I understand that, but do you? Because I spent 2 weeks being angry about your motivations when I should have been looking at your actions. You used your money to help people. That's not manipulation, that's responsibility. Sarah turned to face him fully. What are you saying? I'm saying I was wrong. Not about everything, you should have told me about the companies, and we need to figure out better communication, but I was wrong about your intentions. Michael. Emma drew a family poster at school today. 3 people, me, her, and you. And when I asked her about the money differences between us, you know what she said? Sarah shook her head. She said it doesn't matter who has more money because we're still a family. And she's right. She's 4 years old. She's 4 years old, and she sees clearly what I've been too proud and scared to see. Money is a tool, Sarah. It's not good or evil by itself. What matters is how you use it. How do I use it? You use it to help people. You use it to solve problems. You use it to make sure the people you care about are safe and secure. That's not buying a family, that's being a family. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Are you saying? I'm saying I love you. I'm saying Emma loves you. I'm saying that I was so worried about being dependent on your money that I forgot the most important thing. What's that? In a real family, people depend on each other. They help each other. They use whatever resources they have. Time, energy, money, love, to make sure everyone is taken care of. Michael reached over and took her hand. I'm saying that if you can accept that I may never be able to contribute financially at the same level you do, then I can accept that your contributions are going to be bigger in some ways. What about your independence? My independence was never about money, Sarah. It was about being able to make choices for my family. And I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us. Sarah was crying openly now. Are you sure? Because I can't go through losing you again. I'm sure, but we need ground rules. Anything. No more surprise interventions. If you want to help with something, we discuss it first. Agreed. No more lies of omission. If your business interests affect our lives, I need to know. Agreed. And we figure out Emma's medical bills together. Not you writing a check, not me drowning in debt. Together. Together, Sarah agreed. Michael leaned over and kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. There's one more thing. What? Emma wants to know if you're coming to dinner tomorrow. Apparently, she's been saving up stories to tell you. Sarah laughed through her tears. I wouldn't miss it. The wedding was small, just Emma, Mrs. Patterson, David Thompson and his wife, a few close friends, and Sarah's parents, who had flown in from San Francisco with expressions of cautious optimism. Emma served as the flower girl, wearing a purple dress she'd picked out herself and carrying a basket of real butterflies that Sarah had arranged to have released at the ceremony. She took her job very seriously, scattering petals with the precision of a 4-year-old who knew she was the center of attention. "Do you, Michael Johnson, take Sarah Chun to be your wife?" the officiant asked. "I do," Michael said, looking at Sarah in her elegant but simple wedding dress, her hair adorned with tiny flowers that Emma had insisted upon. "Do you, Sarah Chen, take Michael Johnson to be your husband?" "I do," Sarah said, her voice steady and sure. "Then by the power vested in me by the state of California, I now pronounce you husband and wife." As they kissed, Emma cheered loudly from the front row, and the butterflies soared overhead in a cloud of orange and gold. Later, at the small reception in Sarah's backyard, their backyard now, Emma pulled on Michael's sleeve. "Daddy, are we officially a family now?" "We were already a family, Princess. Now it's just official on paper." "Good," Emma said with satisfaction. "Can I call Sarah Mom now?" Michael looked over at Sarah, who was talking with his new in-laws and trying not to cry at Emma's question. "That's up to Sarah," he said. "You'll have to ask her." Emma marched over to Sarah with purpose. Mom, can I help you cut the cake?" Sarah knelt down to Emma's level, her composure finally breaking. "I would love that, sweetheart. But are you sure you want to call me Mom?" "Well," Emma said with 4-year-old logic, "you're married to my daddy, and you live with us, and you make sure I eat my vegetables and you read me bedtime stories. That's what moms do, right?" "Right," Sarah said, hugging Emma tightly. "That's exactly what moms do." As they cut the cake together, Emma's small hands guided by Sarah's steady ones, Michael watched his two favorite people in the world and marveled at how simple it had become. Not easy, but simple. Love, family, taking care of each other. The money was still there, would always be there, but it had found its proper place, as a tool for building the life they wanted, not as a barrier to having it. Michael's phone buzzed with a text from David Thompson. "Construction on the new children's hospital wing starts Monday. Thanks for the recommendation on the contractor. You were right about Johnson and Associates being the right fit." Michael smiled and put his phone away. Johnson and Associates, his own construction company, launched 6 months ago with Sarah as a silent partner and David as his first major client. It was growing slowly but steadily, built on Michael's expertise and Sarah's business connections and their shared commitment to doing good work. "What are you smiling about?" Sarah asked, appearing at his elbow with cake frosting on her fingers. "Just thinking about how much everything has changed." "Good changes." Michael looked around at their wedding reception. Emma chasing butterflies with Mrs. Patterson, Sarah's parents asking David about his latest project, friends and family mixing together in the golden evening light. "The best changes," he said, pulling his wife close for another kiss. In the distance, Emma's laughter rang out clear and happy, and Michael knew that Jennifer would have loved Sarah too, would have approved of the woman who made their daughter feel safe and loved and part of something bigger than herself. "What happens next?" Sarah asked against his lips. "Next," Michael said, watching Emma catch a butterfly and whisper to it before letting it go, "We live happily ever after." "Is that a promise?" "That's a promise." And for the first time in years, Michael Johnson knew exactly what the future held. A family built on love instead of need, security instead of desperation, and the kind of happiness that money couldn't buy, but could, when used wisely, protect. Emma ran up to them, her face flushed with excitement and her flower crown slightly askew. "Did you see? I caught 3 butterflies, and I made wishes on all of them." What did you wish for? Sarah asked. Emma grinned, missing a front tooth that had fallen out just that morning. I can't tell you or they won't come true, but they're really good wishes. I'm sure they are, Princess, Michael said, scooping her up and spinning her around as she giggled. Later, as they cleaned up from the reception and Emma finally fell asleep in her new room in their new house. A perfect compromise between Sarah's mansion and Michael's tiny apartment, Sarah and Michael sat on their back patio looking out over the garden. No regrets? Sarah asked, curled up against his side. None, Michael said firmly. You. Only that it took us so long to figure it out. We figured it out when we were supposed to. Emma's poster, remember? Sometimes the simplest wisdom comes from the most unexpected places. Speaking of Emma, Sarah said, I have something to tell you. What? I've been working with my lawyers to set up a trust fund for her education. Nothing she can access until she's 18, nothing that will spoil her, but enough to make sure she can go to any college she wants. Sarah, before you object, let me finish. It's not about us or our relationship. It's about her. Every child deserves to have their dreams be limited by their imagination, not their parents' bank account. Michael was quiet for a moment, then smiled. Jennifer would have loved that. She always said Emma was going to be a scientist or an engineer or maybe the first woman president. Why not all three? With you as her mom? Probably will be. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out over their new life together. Michael, Sarah said eventually. Thank you. For what? For stepping in that night at the diner. For giving me a chance to be part of something real. For teaching me that the best things in life aren't bought. They're built. Thank you for being worth the risk. What risk? Michael smiled, remembering the scared, broke single father he'd been just over a year ago. The risk of believing that fairy tales can come true, even for people like us. People like us? People who are brave enough to love each other despite all the reasons it shouldn't work. Sarah kissed him softly. I love our fairy tale. Me too, but the best part. What's that? We're just getting started. Inside the house, Emma stirred in her sleep and mumbled something that sounded like purple butterflies, and Michael and Sarah smiled, knowing that their family, built on love, sustained by trust, and strengthened by the courage to be vulnerable with each other, was exactly what all three of them had been wishing for all along.